Well, it's almost 1 year since we started discussing about this book.
Indeed, time flies. The vast majority of managers acknowledge generative AI potential, but only a minority of them use generative AI on a daily basis in their job. So there is a gap between the perceived potential and the actual usage. And that's why we decided to write this book, so to close this gap, this knowing-doing gap.
And we uncovered the two main reasons why this gap exists. The first one is that most managers are unaware of the potential of generative AI to enhance their daily work. And the second is that even those who acknowledge this potential, they are simply not equipped with the tools, instructions, prompts, and techniques to interact in a way that can really create value in their daily work.
Yeah, with the book we show them how to do it practically. The book draws on qualitative research that we conducted on dozens of managers, as well as on quantitative surveys that were done by the Capgemini Research Institute over 1,500 managers in 15 countries. So it's a very comprehensive study considering many sectors and functions.
The mix of quantitative and qualitative findings enriched the book. It brought both the statistical knowledge, but also the voice of the managers, mostly pioneers in the early days in using generative AI. So we owe a lot to all the hundreds of managers we had the opportunity to talk to and also to learn from.
Yes.
So looking back, the process of writing, well, probably it was the easy part. The real challenge was the continuous experimentation. We got our hands dirty with multiple Gen AI models. We learned a lot along the journey. We also stayed up to date on the latest technological advancements. Main goal was to make sure that the book remains current, given the latest releases and new features of mostly widely used models.
Yeah, and the book is also tech agnostic, so we try on many different technologies and models so that our readers can really apply it wherever their model is. And I think that this is very valuable.
There are managers who use generative AI mainly as a productivity assistant. They share with us that they use it to summarize long documents, to write emails for them, to also create some initial long list of ideas and items as a springboard for ideation. But then there are also some managers, you remember since the early days we started discussing with some of the pioneers, who are using generative AI in a slightly different way. They do not simply ask AI to execute things for them, they talk to AI. You remember the CEO is one of the very first
Yes.
pioneers. And the CEO shared with us that he's talking to AI to help him prepare for client pitches, anticipating objections, counter-arguments, also doing some dry run through voice-to-voice features.
Yes, indeed.
So managers can indeed use generative AI in two different ways. One way is to interact with generative AI as a productivity assistant, what we call co-pilot in our book. The second interaction mode is about thinking with AI, what we call the co-thinker in our book. Depending on the task at hand, it's the manager's choice to select the appropriate interaction mode.
Yes, and in the book we cover both.
This is not about lack of understanding of generative AI potential. Most managers see the value, understand the benefits that this new technology can bring to the organization. What is overlooked is the potential of using this technology for themselves, for the individual use, for their individual tasks. And so when we started talking with some of them, what we learned is that they were using AI across many different tasks. And so we created this list of over 35 managerial tasks that can be grouped around the various categories, going from tasks that you just do for your personal productivity or personal growth, self-development, up to much more complex tasks like business or strategy formulation, even leading transformations by helping your team embrace a new a new mindset.
Yeah, and the point is that managers and also senior executives sometimes they know a lot about GenAI, they talk a lot about GenAI, but then if you ask, okay, you yourself in your daily job as an executive, are you using it? And they are a little bit reluctant, but then they admit that they don't really use it on a daily basis. Maybe they have tried once or twice, or they're using just one weekly. But if you don't use it daily as part of your routine or your habits, you are not really changed the way you work as a manager. And that's exactly the point. You need to change how you work if you want to reap all the benefits of it yourself. So not just for your organization, which is of course great, but also yourself. So that's the point that they need to understand. They need to do this mindset shift.
A good portion of managers we talked to were from central functions. You remember, HR, communications, marketing, finance. But then we met also managers who are coming from business units. And there was this guy, this brilliant project manager working in an automotive company, who shared with us the way in which he's using generative AI. And I still remember first time he told us that he has been interacting with generative AI for the root cause analysis of technical problems related to the powertrain. It was unbelievable to hear. But then he explained to us that he's not delegating the identification of the root cause analysis to the machine. He's doing a co-analysis of the problem with the machine. And on the one hand, he grasped a lot of benefits in terms of speed. So he went from several days to several hours when it comes to the identification of the right problem to solve, but also benefits in terms of spotting overlooked root causes and looking at the problem from different perspectives. Managers who use generative AI on a daily basis are more confident in guiding their teams and organization at large through the generative AI complex transformation. They know when and how to question the AI output. They can anticipate potential risks, and they train their muscle in mitigating such risks. And most importantly, what they do differently is that they nurture judgment at scale within the organization.
Yes, indeed, judgment is key in the transformation. Using GenAI as a co-thinker is about interacting with it as a thought partner that helps you reflect and ponder decisions. For example, analyzing pros and cons, or evaluating trade-off, or assessing risk and how to mitigate them. When managers use GenAI as a co-pilot, it's about productivity, it's about efficiency, like summarizing a document or drafting a text. Whereas when they use GenAI as a co-thinker, is about value innovation, is about better decision making, these sort of things.
And these are indeed two very different ways of interacting with generative AI. And let's be honest, the co-thinking is the overlooked one.
Yes.
What we're seeing when we talk to managers is that in the typical day of a manager's job, most of their tasks are related to what you just shared. They're about thinking differently, thinking about how to create value for the organization, for the clients. It's about making tough decisions, also in some cases having some self-reflection about their leadership style, their values, and how do they translate such values into actions. So for these specific topics and complex problems, managers need to be aware that generative AI should be used differently. And here comes the co-thinking.
Yes, I can mention 3 examples. So there are managers using GenAI as a co-thinker when they analyze a problem, so in the root cause analysis, to see if they cover all the dimensions of a problem. Then there are managers using it in preparation to business development meetings. So they try to look at the best value proposition based on the client needs, and also to anticipate the counter arguments or objections. And even, as you mentioned, there are managers who are using GenAI as a sort of a coach that help them in the reflection about leadership styles, about their behaviors, about their habits, and how to be a better leader.
And this explains the concept of augmentation. So when managers understand the importance of shifting interaction mode depending on the task, they can unlock much more value beyond efficiency in terms of value innovation, creativity, and also making better decisions. We've been asked several times whether it's preferable to use GenAI as a co-pilot or as a co-thinker. But the point is that this is not the right question to ask. It's always about the task at hand. So depending on the task, one interaction mode is preferable compared to the other. There are also some cases that you may want to start first using GenAI as a productivity assistant and then move to using it as a thought partner. This is the case of speech preparation. You remember the head of communication we talked to several times. So she's shared with us that as a first step, she engages with generative AI as a productivity assistant when it comes to draft the slides, the voiceover, to edit some text of the presentation. But then she switches to using generative AI as a thought partner to help her anticipate tough questions, rehearse the speech. Also, asking for challenge from generative AI in order to be prepared, for some tough Q&A sessions.
So the recipe of a good human-AI dialogue consists of 5 main ingredients. Let's say we have context, conversation, challenge, perspective, and judgment. So first is context, because you have to put your situation into this dialogue. GenAI doesn't know your specific context, so it's important to bring your context in. Second, we have conversation. So you have to talk with GenAI, not just ask, because it's a dialogue. So it unfolds along multiple steps as you go through the conversation. Third is the notion of challenge. So you should question the output of GenAI. At the same time, you should say prompt GenAI to challenge your initial ideas and to see how they can be enriched from different angles. And this brings to the fourth, which is perspective. So harness the capability of GenAI to take different perspectives and to see your problem from different angles. And of course, this can create diversity and also enrich your thinking on a certain specific problem. The last one is crucial, is judgment. So always apply critical thinking, because of course GenAI is not infallible. It's a probabilistic technology, and we need to be aware of that and exercise our human judgment. So GenAI and humans, they bring complementary elements to the dialogue, because GenAI is very good at listing ideas, taking perspectives, providing many examples, and also analyzing pros and cons. Whereas humans, they bring context, they bring the situational nuances, they bring emotional intelligence, they bring feedback in the dialogue, enriching the dialogue, and of course, at the end, the validation, so the final judgment on the output.
And mixing these two complementary elements is at the core of the human-AI collaboration. So just simply clicking and waiting for the machine to bring you an answer or to execute a task does not unlock the full potential of human-AI collaboration.
Yes, because value is co-created. So human and AI intertwine. And thanks to this dialogue and leveraging the best of both, that you create greater value.
And let's be honest, this is a capability that was not present before. So managers who are today in large organizations were not trained, to practice these capabilities. So that's why it's so important for them to train and exercise their muscle of interacting with AI, either as a productivity assistant or as a thought partner.
Yes. The main narrative today is, okay, we have GenAI on one side and human on the other side, and there are things that GenAI can do for humans. But the point here is what they can do together and create new value that was not there before. So this combination between human and AI is what really counts. It's not a race between the two, but is more a collaboration. They need to go together and in a sort of a fusion and in a sort of a co-creation of value.
And this symbiotic relationship is something that was not possible with technologies in the past. So that's the real power and beauty of generative AI, is that it's offering this opportunity of co-creating with AI.
Yes. So first of all, don't delegate. Do it in first person. Get your hands dirty. In our book, there are dozens of ready-to-use prompts that managers can immediately apply on a variety of managerial tasks. So I think getting hands dirty is very important. And second is embrace a conversational mindset. So you have to talk with GenAI, not just ask. So we really have to create this dialogue, to engage, to think together, to see GenAI as a thought partner that really can help you reflect, can help you ponder, can help you consider. So it's not a matter of speed, it's more a matter of reflection and depth and quality.
And let's be honest, generative AI is not a magic wand. If you want magic to happen, you need to roll up your sleeves, get your hands dirty, and use the technology. Do you remember the case of the head of communication of a large pharmaceutical company? The way in which he nudges his team to embrace an experimental mindset with generative AI is pretty fascinating. Just as an example, I remember the job description case. So he told us that one of his team members came to him to share a job description, and the first thing that the head of HR asked him was, have you did this with generative AI? And so I think that this is a case in point of how managers can not just be a role model, but also nudge their own team to embrace ongoing experimentation with generative AI. He was not finger pointing, absolutely the contrary. So he was inviting the team member to use generative AI in a way that can help work more efficiently and better.
Yes, we understand that it's challenging to jump on it right away and start. That's why together with the book, we also built a toolkit with worksheets, instruction, templates that managers can use, also with their teams, to start experimenting and get their hand dirty to complement what is in the book. So the most common traps that worry managers are, I would say, mainly three: the trust trap, the fabrication trap, and then conformity trap. So the trust trap, unlike a calculator, GenAI is not infallible because it's a probabilistic model. So you have to be aware of that. Sometimes it's wrong. So you don't have to over-trust, you have to check and to exercise your judgment. Second is the fabrication trap. So despite the advancement in technology, GenAI still can hallucinate and fabricate sources or the name of the authors, the title of an article. So also that is something to be careful. And third, we have the conformity trap. So if you don't bring your context into the dialogue, if you don't bring your situational nuances, then the output will be very standard. So the same output that everybody else would get. So that's important to bring your context to avoid the conformity trap.
In addition to these three traps, along our experimentation journey, we uncovered two additional traps: the solo trap and the speed trap. The solo trap is very simple. The generative AI model is designed for one-on-one interaction. And so it attracts you like a magnet. So what we recommend the managers is to nudge their teams to collaborate also beyond just using generative AI. And so to open up the discussion with the other team members regarding, for instance, an AI-created output. Then there's the speed trap. We all know that generative AI can be extremely fast in giving you answers, in interacting with you. And so you might fall into this trap that you want to go as fast as the machine. But we all know that when it comes to complex topics or problems, speed can backfire. So that's why it's important to be aware of the speed trap in order to know when to pause and reflect throughout an interaction with AI.
Yes.
The most common indicator that managers are falling into the speed trap is when the answers they give to the machine are very, very short, typically 1 or 2 words maximum. This is a signal that they are not contributing to the dialogue. They're simply clicking and waiting for the generative AI to give them answers or ideas. And so if they're not equally contributing to the conversation, this means that they are going simply too fast and not pausing, not sharing context, not giving feedback. So they are missing the key ingredients that are the ones that can make a difference for a successful dialogue.
Yes, and I think if you look at the dialogue at the end, if it's 90% Gen AI and then 10% the human part, is not a good signal because it shows that the dialogue is not well balanced, so probably you rely too much on Gen AI, you don't put yourself into the conversation, you don't bring your context, you don't challenge, and at the end you don't exercise judgment throughout the steps of the conversation. So that's a signal.
And the overall output could be very disappointing because if you do not share context, information, details, and feedback with AI, the risk is that the output could be very poor and superficial.
And we have seen many times that people tend to blame Gen AI because the output is a little bit weak, but sometimes they should also blame themselves because they have not brought the context into the conversation. So to avoid falling into these traps, judgment is key, really important. And judgment comes in 3 different layers, let's say. You have the organizational judgment, which consists of policies, of rules, of a code of conduct, which is of course necessary. And then you have the individual judgment, so the critical thinking of the individual manager, prompting the Gen AI model. But then there is also an intermediate layer of judgment, which is the team-based judgment. So we are all part of teams. And so we are not alone. There are colleagues, there are team members. And so we should leverage also the team-based judgment, the collective judgment, because people and colleagues, they bring different perspectives, they may uncover blind spot. So this is good when we evaluate the output of Gen AI. So to have, yes, individual judgment, but also the team-based judgment.
In a nutshell, our hope for this book. Well, we hope managers, first of all, understand that generative AI can not only have an impact on the organization, but also on themselves. Can help them rethink how they work, help them work not only more efficiently, but also in a more innovative way, and more importantly, help them understand that with a technology that evolves so fast, you need to equip yourself now with this capability if you want to be aware of, future advancements and also future risks and traps.
Only 15% of managers today use Gen AI in their job. So we hope with this book to see these percentages go up very fast so that this becomes, let's say, a new way of working for managers, new routine, so part of their daily job. And if we achieve that, I think it's a great achievement because we have this ambition. We want to transform how managers work.
Gen AI is here to stay. Time is ripe for managers at all levels, across industries, to embrace this change. if and only if managers are equipped with this new capability, they can lead the transformation in a responsible way in their organizations.